Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my vlog, where it's my mission and simultaneous pleasure to talk about my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you, giving you a specific takeaway, and so forth. Now, before I dive into things, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various content and lessons that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It means a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So, as far as what I'm going to talk about here, I'm going to, not a lot like in terms of results happen, right? It's kind of one of those things like if you look at a checklist, not much got done, but to get that one thing done, it took hours to get it done. So primarily, what I've been working on is this short film, which is really a proof of concept for a feature film that I aim to do. And as part of that, there's, that's the biggest thing, is this short film to showcase kind of what it is. There's also the pitch deck. There's the website and kind of other stuff, right? Just anything that someone might be interested in or whatnot to see as part of it. The script certainly is a big part of it, and so forth. Now, the primary thing that all these things kind of still need to be finished. I talk about this every single week, but they're moving well along. The biggest thing that requires my attention in terms of moving it along is the proof of concept. We're very close. We had a good. That is my dog Chloe. Apologies for that, but. So we're very close, and I keep kind of saying that every single week, and it always gets extended and things like that, but we are moving closer and closer, and I'm excited because we had a great meeting, and now kind of it's about implementing the various notes. And so we had a very good creative meeting about how to, because what was there is great, but now it's about taking what's there and kind of just getting it through that final level to elevate it to be as good as it can be. And it was myself, Thomas, the visual artist, the VFX artist, as well as Jonathan Moulton, who's my friend and has kind of been shepherding this along with me and has been coming in doing some of the 3D modeling stuff and so forth, because there's a lot of 3D modeling actually. And yeah, the meeting was kind of good. I can't get into specifics because A, that would kind of spoil the movie a little bit, and B, I don't want to talk about it until it is finished. But needless to say, it's great. Like, that's why I love having meetings that are of a creative nature, because you come that much faster to solutions rather than me taking, however meticulous notes I can. At the end of the day, it's not enough. It's going to be that much better if we can bounce ideas off of each other. And in fact, there was this one thing that we were talking about, and I kind of initially had this note, but as we were talking, we were like, well, what if we did it this way and it connected to this, and then it, kind of, hinted at this, and it was like, oh yeah, that's totally perfect. Let's do that. And so those are the conversations I like having. Unfortunately, I had to, part of, not with the VFX, but some other stuff just in life in general, I had to have more basic conversations that weren't of a creative nature. And, with the various friends that I've been talking with, I'm like, I never, if someone calls me, whether an actor, if I had a cinematographer, the VFX guys, whoever, in my life, John Comerford, who's helping revise the script, like any of these people, if they called me and wanted to work through a creative solution, or a problem rather, to get to a creative solution, then I'm all in. But there's certain things that you work on that are just a grind, right? And sometimes it's no one's fault. Other times it's like, okay, why are you not getting this type of thing? And that can be frustrating, and I get that. And sometimes, some of those things are unavoidable. Other times they are not avoidable. and you just kind of have to trudge through them as best as you can. But needless to say, yeah, doing the VFX was really fun, and now with Jonathan, we're creating some really cool 3D models, and for me, it's exciting to learn that aspect of it. I don't have the programs like Maya and so forth, Unreal Engine, not that I couldn't get them, but it's not worth it right now. Plus, I don't know them. But what's fun is I learned that you can import 3D objects into Photoshop, and so the things that Jonathan creates, I can view in Photoshop and kind of go around and so forth. So that's fun, right? And I can kind of, for lack of a better term, check his work and make sure that we're on the same page. In fact, today I kind of gave him notes, and what the biggest thing that keeps getting reiterated is you can be as specific as you can with notes and the way you word things, but when you give it's that cliche, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so what's really to my advantage is my ability to reference all kinds of entertainment. So I can reference like a movie like Under the Skin, which is for certain cinephiles, right? Very well-known film, but the mainstream audience is never going to know what it is, let alone watch it. To like a Doja Cat music video, and those are two examples that I utilized in terms of conveying what I needed to for this. And so once they see it, they're like, okay, I get it, right? Or at the very least, it sparks a conversation of them like, oh, okay, I know what you're going for. What if we kind of tweaked it this way and X, Y, and Z? And it's like, okay, cool, let's do that, right? And so, whenever possible, always, whether it's even just a picture, if you can do a picture, there's been times, there's a couple of things in terms of what we need to create. And you see this on a lot of behind the scenes featurettes where they'll use, like, let's say if it's a highway chase, they'll use toy cars to kind of simulate things and so forth. And so for me, there's a couple of things like that where I literally just get my phone, right? My phone, and put some action figures down and even like random, objects like, let's say this little pouch, and I'll place it down and be like, okay, that pouch is the table, this is the person, blah, blah, blah. And I'll walk them through the scene of how things should look. And it's very, rudimentary in that way and silly when really kind of looked at, but nonetheless, it conveys the message certainly way better than writing it out. And that's how we've been, especially in this final juncture, been communicating those notes to make sure that things look the way that I envision them in my mind, right? So there's that aspect. The other thing, the next couple of things are less of like what I'm doing, more about what I'm thinking about, okay? And, for me, one of the things that I've been thinking about is this idea of organic filmmaking versus meticulous filmmaking. And, with my first movie, it was much more an organic process, meaning very much part of the mantra of what I was trying to create was this idea that we'll just embrace the mistakes that come. And that worked for that movie, right? That was very much part of the movie's DNA. Whereas this movie that I'm working on, or hopefully will work on, as far as a feature film, is much more meticulous. Things have to be worked out. And, interestingly enough, it's not that it's not my strength. But for me, in that sense, after a certain point, once you work out the problems and get to the solutions in your head, then it becomes an exercise in execution versus play, right? And that aspect of it I don't necessarily enjoy, but I know the final product, like in order to have in order to convey and get what I have in my head onto the screen, that's the way it has to work. And it's not to say one's better than the other. It's just kind of interesting to me to kind of think about organic filmmaking versus very meticulous version of that. In a way, it's kind of like I almost I've been thinking about this in terms of books as well, right? I've written a novel, meaning a fiction, and I've written one nonfiction, and I'm working on, new in both, right? And it's also kind of funny because like Tim Ferriss was talking about this with Stephen Pressfield. Like when you're writing a nonfiction, the goal is to make sure everything's clear to the audience. And for you, there's not really any surprises. Whereas with a work of fiction, it can be a novel, it can be a movie, and it can be a song perhaps. There's surprises along the way. Whereas with, anything kind of doing with nonfiction, there's not that element of surprise because you're trying to convey, those facts in the clear, concise way. And, you go through ebbs and flows, right? I mean, certainly even with like a fiction book, when you're in the revision phase, a lot of it can be more meticulous, right? Where the creativity kind of part of it is over, and now you're making sure that you have proper commas and where they need to go and yada, yada, yada. And so there's an aspect of creativity if you wish to see it, but it's not like the creativity that jumps to mind initially, right, of what we consider creative acts. And I think it's just kind of like an aspect of creativity that we all have to embrace. And I think it's something that we too often are like, well, I only want to be creative. I only want to be creative. Well, at the end of the day, we have to do a certain amount of this, I don't know, for lack of a better word, monotonous stuff, because that's also part of the process, right? You're never going to just be able to write a novel and never have to revise it. Even if you have a wonderful editor to help you out with that, for me, I get very curious. So whenever someone does revise my work, I comb through it to see like what are the changes they made, so that way I can become a better writer, and then as time goes by, save them the hassle, and they could put their mind, into rather than worrying about commas and periods and I don't know, just I'm just being kind of overly facetious with it. They can work on the more of the macro of like, is the pacing right? Is this, is the character motivation off at any certain points and so forth, right? But if they're spending time on so many micro issues, they can't focus on the macro. And ultimately, that's, what I would love for them to do. As much as obviously they help with the specifics, that's why I have them. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting to me that differentiation of the meticulous versus kind of organic aspect of it, and very much so. I don't think I completed this thought, but just to put a button on it, very much so. Right now, I'm in the very meticulous phase, of kind of everything where I'm more of a manager than a maker, meaning I'm not in the creative elements as much because I have to kind of make sure everything's moving in parallel to each other, right? The script, that is more about the revision and meeting deadlines in terms of what I'm responsible for than anything, and so forth, right? And so creativity is involved, but it's not, it's not the driving force of the things that I'm working on at the moment, right? And so, yeah, in that sense, I think if I'm being honest, there's a certain aspect like, that I miss, but I know it's part of the process. And, I almost kind of jokingly, well, not jokingly, I've been also just, during walks, let's say with my dog, or, when I wake up for like 10 minutes in bed, I'll kind of think about, a new story idea that I've been kind of pondering and be like, oh, okay, and almost like starting to outline it. And, I try to hold myself back because I don't want to take on another project. I've got plenty of stuff that still needs to get done. Certainly this is just, even this one film would be like a huge undertaking in and of itself, let alone the other stuff that I've got going on. And so, but if an idea comes, I'm not gonna not kind of write it down and so forth. But yeah, beyond that, as far as what the point is, I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about. that's kind of where I'm at with things, you know, overall. Not well, I guess I should say this. The thing that came to mind today was to have a virtual premiere for the proof of concept. So as of now, if all things go well, then end of March, you know, however we can do it, you know, we'll premiere it on, let's say, YouTube, and everyone will kind of be part of a Zoom call where everyone's going to watch it at the same time, and then afterwards, you know, there's a Q&A, right? And then I get to do and so forth. And so I'm thinking about that right now. I've put out a poll of like when the best time would be, which I think overall is probably going to be on the weekend. But you know, in that sense, I want to know: is it Friday night? Is it Saturday? Is it Sunday? You know, what time of day? Is it like brunch time? Is it afternoon? Is it evening time? And I think like Saturday brunch time as of now seems to be the consensus, but it's early yet. You know, so in that regard, you can let me know in the comment section, you know, what time frame works best for you. And I would, you know, I'll send out more details as this develops. But I thought it'd be fun to really premiere it that way. You know, not just like, hey, go check out my thing, but you know, let's watch it together, and then afterwards we'll do a cast Q&A type of thing, and you know, just make it a little bit more special for, you know, the fans and the people that worked on it, right? So that's what I've been kind of thinking about and working towards. Anyway, that's what I've got going on. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was beneficial to you. As always, you can ask questions or offer up opinions of your own, whether down in the comments section, hit me up on social media at Svitek. I would love to converse with you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and hope to see you next time.